Any final action taken on conditional use permit request will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by May 28th at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on June 18th at 9:15 a.m. Meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. I was just going to let you know that initially we were going to meet as the Zoning Board of Adjustment. So if you're here regarding the variance for course in South Dakota, we've deferred that until next month because we don't have enough members on the Planning Commission here. So that's not going to be discussed tonight if that was the reason you were here. At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. The minutes from the March 25th meeting are included as part of the consent agenda. Are there any objections from the Planning Commission to any item listed on the consent agenda?
I would like to review number 7.
Okay.
That's a rather big deal.
Anything else? All right, now I'm going to read each item on the consent agenda, and if any member of the audience objects to any of these items, raise your hand and the item will be moved to the regular agenda, and then you'll be allowed to discuss, address the commission later in the meeting. The first item is the approval of minutes from April 22nd. The next thing is a conditional use permit to allow a single family dwelling, and this is 1 mile north of Wildwater West. Item number 4, conditional use permit to transfer 4 residential building eligibilities to the northeast quarter south of highway of section. Anyway, this is 1 mile east of Hartford, I guess we can go there. Transferring 4 residential building eligibilities 1 mile east of Hartford. Item number 5, a conditional use permit to exceed 1,200 square feet of accessory building area. There's 3,190 square feet requested. This is 1 mile north of Brandon. And then, let's see, item number 6, the last item is a conditional use permit to exceed 1,200 square feet of accessory building area. There's 3,900 square feet requested, and this is east of Country Acres subdivision. Okay, did anybody in the audience have any objections to any of those items? All right. There's no objections. Can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed?
I so move.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, so if you were here for any of the items I talked about so far, everything except item number 7, which is the precast concrete precast plant. Every other item has been approved, so you're free to leave. Now we'll have to have a motion to approve the regular agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll let Pat tell us about the concrete plant.
Hello, Commissioners. Pat Herman for County Planning, and the petitioner is here, Carl Carlson. The only one left here in the audience tonight. So I won't brief you at where this is. I think we're all familiar with the area here at the south of the Buffalo Ridge there. Mr. Carlson has applied to a conditional use permit for a precast concrete plant, which is basically where you cast the product in concrete at the site, and then you would transport it to the area where it is needed. We have a submitted site plan. The initial building is planned to be 90 by 180, and then hopefully as the business would grow, that footprint would expand to 115 by 300, and that's shown in the white area there on the screen. On the west side of the plant, there will be 2 silos, 2 cement silos, and the conveyor belt and aggregate hopper are also going to be there adjacent to the plant on the west side. There will be a large storage area that's shown in the yellow at the big yellow square. And there's also going to be external aggregate storage on the site. The driveway is to the north of the property, coming in from the township road there, and there will be an office there as well as the parking area for employees. This area has been zoned for industrial use, which this plant requires. And there is commercial zoning to the north as well as industrial zoning to the east. And then we have the gravel pit to the south. So the requested hours of operation for this plant are from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday. We're going to recommend that the Saturday hours would end at 6 p.m. as there are some residential uses in the area to the northeast and then to the southwest. The petitioner has his access coming from 466th Avenue, and he's placed it as far north as possible, so there's limited traffic going to the north to access Highway 38. They have the recommended 6 parking spaces that are required for the office, and then there's plenty of room on this land for any offloading or parking of trucks in their entering and exiting. Of course, a concrete plant will have some nuisances just by right of what it is, but then again, we do have mining in this area, and it shouldn't be any more intrusive than that use. Any lighting would have to be the shoebox design so that it goes down onto the property and doesn't glare off the site. So we are recommending approval of the request with 12 conditions. I will go ahead and read those. The first is that the conditional use permit is for the concrete precast plant and the use is accessory to that plant. That it adhere to the submitted site plan dated April 22nd, 2013. 3, that all lights be of a shoebox design directing light downward onto the property. 4, that the hours of operation be Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 5, that the plant not be operational until the final approval is given by the building inspector. 6, that 6 off-street parking spaces be provided and that 1 parking space shall meet the 2010 ADA standards. 7, that all on-site wastewater systems shall be in compliance with our zoning ordinance or our septic ordinance. 8, that all natural drainage shall be maintained and erosion control measures be implemented on all disturbed areas. 9, that the business operator have the South Dakota tax license. 10, that all setbacks conform to the requirements of Article 7, the I-1 Light Industrial District. 11, that the signs also conform to requirements of the zoning ordinance. And 12, that a building permit would be obtained before construction. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or for specific to how the plant runs. Carl is here can explain that.
Any questions for Pat?
I have one that's kind of, this is an area, of course, where that road is quite an issue.
Yes.
Okay, so that's coming off of paved road, so is that driveway in paved then?
I did not require it because this is a township road, which the township didn't even want paved, so I didn't require it, given that the pavement requirement falls only on the mining company. So Carl and I did talk about that, and I guess if that gravel company has some issues that that they can work that out between them if they feel he needs to help support paying for that. But
they may have some issues since you're going to be putting a lot of heavy trucks on the road that they're responsible
right.
for.
The other reason I didn't require it is that the driveway down into the mine pit is not paved either.
The other question I can ask him when he gets up here was just, so why isn't the aggregate storage behind instead of out front of the road? Out of sight more.
That's for Carl to answer on that one.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Carl, can you come forward? State your name and address, please.
I'm Carl Carlson. I live at 2208 West Black Rock Circle in Sioux Falls. I can answer your question about the aggregate storage. Most of the aggregate bins will be inside the building but outside there'll be a hopper that either loaders or trucks will dump into, and then from that hopper the aggregates will go up a conveyor belt into the building, and then they'll go into aggregate bins inside. And typically precast plants will have additional aggregate storage outside to make sure that if you're running low inside, you can use a payloader to pick up aggregates and dump it into the conveyor. So the reason it's on that side is it needs to be close to where your hopper is located for dumping into, because it's just used more so for if you need some quick tonnage to fill up the bins while you're waiting for another truck or something like
Are
that.
those like a bunker?
Yeah.
That's what
Yep,
that
yep,
is? Okay.
yep. So they're accessible by a payloader. Payloader would pick it up, back up, drive forward, and dump into the hopper.
Yeah, that was no question.
Okay.
It would be
Okay.
out of sight. versus-
About how many trucks a day would go in and out of this, and did it say?
No.
Hopefully a lot.
You don't know.
You know, you can haul about 20 tons of material on a truck, and hopefully, you know, initially I'd hope to produce 6,000 to 8,000 ton of material a year in a 6-month window, and hopefully we'd get up to over 20,000 ton a year. So I haven't done that math on my trucks. That figures out to be per day, but.
So it's a precast, is things like gauges are doing now, that type of thing?
It'd be like
septic tanks,
concrete.
that type-
Well, it'd be like concrete pipe, hopefully, and manholes and box culvert. That's what we intend to do. But we may, you know, find some other product lines that are beneficial. But I don't know anything about building a building, so the gauge thing is kind of, I'm not going to mess with that. But we do road work and have a good understanding of concrete pipe and manholes and box culverts. So that's in all likelihood where our focus will be. Currently, the two companies that specialize in that in South Dakota are both Minnesota-owned companies. So all that money leaves our state. Every month it goes to Minnesota. And it's
Is
a
that
lot
profitable?
Is that Hancock now, used to be Hanson or what
Right
up there? I
there.
don't-
Yep. Hancock and then Cretex in Mitchell. So.
So that's the type of product
Mhm.
that you're doing, okay.
Any other questions for Carl?
Compared to, I know there's lots of gravel pits in the area, but how much dust will this produce compared to a gravel pit? And what about, is there a need for dust control? I'm sure you'll tell me no, but.
No, I think there'll be a need for dust control. We own a water truck, and I think at times, certainly, even just for your own, you know, working conditions. I'm not saying when it's 95 degrees for 3 days in a row in August, things might not get a little, but yeah, you're going to want to put water out to keep the dust down. And at the same time, I'll say that, you know, Gage was mentioned. They're right in the middle of Sioux Falls, and you can go south or north of there, and dust just blows forever. So or up at Hancock, their plant, both of those plants are right in the city limits. And we will be located next to a gravel pit where there are, you know, several acres of open ground with exposed aggregate, you know, that is open to the wind. So I promise we'll do our best to keep that down. But I don't think, you know, I don't think it'll have the negative impact that the plants in town have on their surroundings.
Excuse me, wasn't this originally planned further east on this land?
No, but they zoned the whole property
That's
further
what it was,
east,
'cause I
yeah.
remember the folks who lived east of there were.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I drove around for almost a year before a friend of mine showed me this land, and he knew the landowners, and that's how I got to buy this. But there really is nowhere, as far as I'm concerned, that you can go and buy an affordable piece of land that you can, you know, get industrial zoning on and have utilities to and be able to work on. So I thought it was, and it's got good access to the interstate. I'm not by anybody. I mean, I know there's a house. What is it? Maybe a
Mile
quarter.
south.
Yeah, to the.
Where else?
Mhm. But other than that, it's one of the most remote locations I found. So that was part of my thinking. I mean, I really didn't want to be by anybody. I didn't want to, you know, impact anybody negatively. So, and as far as the hours go, I just put in the most I could possibly think of. I don't think we'll ever work, you know, till what, 9 o'clock on Saturday. I don't think that'll ever 6 p.m. I don't think that'll ever happen. So.
Well, I think the fact that no one is here to contest, like you said. it
Well, I
was-
did have a question about that. Did people know?
Yes. Yes, if you remember, people came when we had the rezoning, and
There were lots
they
of
knew
people.
what was going to be coming, and same people were notified, and
Okay.
nobody even called in this time, so.
Okay,
Okay, thanks, Carl.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
All right.
I'll move approval
Okay, we have a motion.
with conditions.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, or do we need to discuss, or all in favor, signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Your conditional use has been approved.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right. Ryan, are you up?
I am. I just have a couple quick things for you. Again, our next meeting for Envision 2035 is June 13th at 3:30 here in this room. So if you'd like to attend, feel free. We'll be here at 3:30. We are just going to be reviewing some additional chapters as we move forward with this process. And the other thing I have to show you real quick, and I know that I believe last month I did show you this, but of course we had our other cleanup event, and I don't know why that is at Tri-Valley. Well, maybe you can kind of see that. Anyway, it shows. I don't know why that's like that. Well, it just shows what we had for.
Pull your percentage up.
That's not.
In the middle of
That's
it.
not right. Okay, let's try one more thing. Well, it does not show spring of 2013 on there. Unless it was saved wrong. Let's see. Well, I have it right in front of me, so I'll just tell you. I'll just tell you what it is. It looks just like that, but it isn't pulling up. We had just about 35 tons that we had taken in for that cleanup at Tri-Valley. We had about 18 tons of household debris. We had just over 11 tons of iron metal appliances, and we had about 5.5 tons of tires that we had taken. So it was cold, and it was somewhat rainy and sleeting and almost snowing, but we still got about 35 tons of material collected for that one event we did, and we invited about 750 residents or residential property owners. So we figured it was still a success. If it would have been a little bit nicer out, and even in the weeks previous, that they would have had time to maybe get their things together, might have been helpful. But that's the way it goes sometimes. So
So you have pictures?
I don't. I just thought I'd show you this part. I can bring some of them
You don't have
next
to.
time
Usually
too.
you do.
But
I was waiting.
when we have it all completed, because we have till the end of June to use any of our funds, and I'm sure the way it's going, I don't think that we have about $4,000 left. But it's hard to do a big event with just $4,000. So that's all I have.
Well, that's all, folks.
I got two quick things.
Okay, yeah.